brought up in this world of male football so much in Europe, and it's a male dominated industry for so long, and then suddenly what we've seen in the last 5 years, 10 years, for all the hard work that's been done for decades by these women footballers coming through and working so hard, because it wasn't like tennis. Women tennis players have always had a high profile, and rightly they should have as well. But for women footballers, they've had to work so hard for it over the years, and we've got to respect all that hard work that's been done while also just running with what's happening at the moment, because it's brilliant. It's breathtaking.
We're talking to Robbie Thomson, who's one of the great voices for Channel 10 and also Paramount Plus, and as you've heard, was part of the FIFA Women's World Cup in France. What fascinates me when you reflect on all of this is a reminder that the women's game has been dudded for years. There were medicos who were saying at the time that it's very bad for women to play the game. It's unhealthy. It's all of this. And I'm talking in the 40s and 50s, because the game did exist before. In the 20s and 30s, women were playing the game around the world in different fashion. And they were denied this linear expansion because the medical and other reasons that were thrown up set them back and stopped them. And it's incredible to see this rush now, not only for recognition, but this rush now to show us how the game can be played in a completely different fashion. You don't have to roll around 4 million times on the paddock to get a free kick. You go down when you're brought down. And what is also super exciting is the new technology that's adding another flavour and layer to the game. And you may have got an insight of this, Robbie. I've heard that the French have just given us a glimpse of a referee talking throughout a French league fixture and showcasing just how wonderful it can be to explain what's going on. And they did it in a recent game only in the last few weeks. And this is a trial to show how they can educate not only the audience, but also the media who commentate on the game by telling them this is what's happening, like they do in basketball and like they do, of course, in baseball. More and more conversations between the players actually in the action and you, the commentators, calling the game. Everyone getting a little bit closer and a little bit more aware of all the subtleties going on. What do you think about that?
Well, I think a number of things about it. I think that referees obviously have been recorded, their audio, because since they've been all wired up together, they've been recorded together, and people have had access to these recordings for years. But I remember seeing one in the World Cup final in 2018, I think it was. We heard months after FIFA released, here's an excerpt, but it was a little bit like it's been treated and cut out the right moments of it and everything. There's the French are often at the forefront of these sort of developments. They're a very sophisticated society. They don't have the same filter, sort of guttural passion for the sport that the English have, or the Spanish or the Italians, or where they can't sort of see beyond their passion to see how to move the game forward or to analyze it. Whereas the French, they analyze it first, and then they go with the passion, which I think is a interesting paradox for their country and their football, and why they can win at international level, but perhaps not at club level on a European stage. But I've seen Stéphanie Frappard, the female referee a Ligue 1 match, a men's Ligue 1 match, and have cameras with her and do a whole story about how she was mic'd up and listened to all her decisions, like what happened the other day with the referee. I think it was just last weekend. Correct. The match, and it was it is super interesting because the referees do have this relationship with the players, and they explain decisions, and I think when people see that, we think, okay, this isn't just a faceless, evil necessity of the game that we have to put up with and we get to criticize. They're actually people that have immense passion for the game, that have the game's best interests at heart. Without them, the game doesn't exist. And yes, sometimes when you're a player or a fan, when a decision goes against you, it can be incredibly frustrating. But to have this insight of having the decision explained, to see the research and the preparation that a referee does for a match before the game as well, how they analyze a situation, why they make the decisions they do, how it works with VAR, of course, is super interesting. And of course, it will bring the game to another level of understanding. I think all this talk about VAR and the frustration with VAR in particular is just misplaced, and it's because we don't understand. And it's the same for us commentating. Sometimes we think we can't understand what's happening. Oh, the game stopped again for this or that. The idea of VAR is just basically giving the referee a chance to have a look at the replay themselves. It's not moving the problem and having a different interpretation and saying, oh, now we've got too many cooks in the, spoiling the broth. We've got this or that. VAR should be a quite simple premise, which is, the referee makes a decision, fourth official or VAR referee says, there may have been a bit of contact. Do you want to have a look at the replay? Referee says, yeah, okay. Everyone else at home is looking at the replay. Referees never get to look at the replay. The commentators get to look at the replays and say, well, we're not sure he got that one right.
Correct.
Why not let the referee have a look at the replay, come across, have a look at the replay, same as everyone at home, and then say, well, I'm the referee. I made the decision. There I'm looking at that replay, and I think I got it right. Decision stands. Or, yeah, I think I can see that that's wrong. A decision overturned. It doesn't have to be this big thing that's changing the whole way we interpret the game, and they're ripping the soul out of the game that I was brought up to love and yada, yada, yada. Give the referee a replay and done, finished.
The point
What's
that you
the
make,
big deal?
The point that you make is fantastic. And then I pause for a millisecond because I watched the Champions League this morning and there was a penalty given, right? And it was for handball. And I thought to myself, how many ways does a player have to turn or twist their body to avoid the ball from hitting any part of their body? And when is an accident and when is it a blatant handball? And this is the very subtle difference that we're not always getting right. But as you've reminded me on many occasions in the past, the players make mistakes. We should also understand that the referee can make a mistake and we shouldn't chastise them forever and a day. Pokuah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's probably the mic'd up bit. I think I find it fascinating just because I watch the NBA a lot and the refs are mic'd up all the time.
Constantly.
So you, when they overturn something, you understand and you hear about it, and it causes, it still obviously causes debate because football is a constant debate, but
No, because you have fans, and fans are only going to see it through one eye.
Yeah, but it probably provides a lot more ease. So I think it'd be fascinating to see if other leagues incorporate it and utilise it more.
What about, Robbie, from your perspective, remember they say to you now, and we've heard the English, especially in the EPL this year, saying we've lifted the threshold. How does that square with you as a commentator?
Look, it's...
You know what I'm saying, don't you?
This is the thing. Yeah, of course. We were
too soft last year, or we were too tough, and we're now going to change the threshold.
Any stud contact was immediately a red card. Now we're changing. We're talking about force, all this sort of thing. Essentially, we're just coming back to the way referees have always refereed, without VAR, saying you go in for a challenge. And again, it's just, for me, it's just a matter of showing the replay, not necessarily slowed down to a millionth degree, to frame by frame that show that impacts are a lot worse. Correct. But if the referee sees the physical impact in terms of threshold and thinks, okay, that was at a speed which was dangerous for one of the two players involved, or for both players, if it was reckless, if the player was not in control of their gesture, if they were in the air and couldn't stop themselves, if they needed to pull out of the tackle or the action, if it was reckless with an arm, and then the contact. Look, talking about talking about thresholds is really splitting hairs, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't help. And the handball decisions as well. I mean, we really do need to have a simplified handball rule, which is essentially if it hits your arm, it's a handball, and end of story. Or work out some way of just having consistency, because we saw it with Melbourne City, a game a couple of weeks back when headers were headed straight down onto arms, where players were jumping back with arms up. And I mean, it's so hard to just say, okay, you're at fault. And then we see one a week later where a cross goes up and hits an arm which is down because the player's not jumping, whereas the arm was up because they were jumping.
Yeah.
And it's not given, or it is given. All of that is complicated. One thing I will say in the defense of the sport and the referees, and in terms of miking them up, is that you're watching basketball. With all due respect, Pokuah, because I don't.
That's all right.
Stick it, yeah.
But what I do know is that if the match ends 100-88, one referee's decision does not change the outcome of the result. And it's the same in rugby, where no one understands the rules. So the referee
Correct.
could say whatever he wants. All the players, when the whistle goes in rugby union, everyone looks up and goes, which way is he pointing?
Correct.
And then he's pointing that way, and they don't argue it because they don't know.
No, they don't.
And no one knows. And everyone at home doesn't know. So rugby's a whole different kettle of fish.
Robbie, you are so
but
right.
It does have that. It has the same thing, which is one referee's decision very rarely decides the outcome of the match, unless that referee's decision is in the last second and it's all tied. Football, that's not the case. Football, a referee's decision in the second minute can decide the result of the entire game, and the fans know it. And the more the game goes on, and the more it's 0-0 or 1-0, or your team is looking for a way back into the game and a decision that goes against you. That's why the football is so incredible, is that one decision can mean the difference between joy and
agony
devastation.
and ecstasy. Agony and
Exactly.
ecstasy. It's in a millisecond. You can. I grew up in Sydney, Robbie, and of course during the winter, I was obliged to support the Randwick Rugby Union Club. Because I was a Randwick cricketer during the summer months. And let me tell you, there were many a time we would look at one another and go, that decision, how can they make that decision? And I'm talking about games that really mattered, grand finals, and we've seen in internationals, and even seasoned commentators, former test players look at you or look down the camera lens and they go, no idea. No idea. It's extraordinary.
But the referee said it was for reaching in or not standing doing something. I mean, God, who knows?
Oh, yeah.
But that's why there's no, contesting the referee's decision as well, because it's not this cultural thing that rugby is the sport played in heaven and they don't know what's going on. That's why they don't contest. So they can't defend a position because they don't know why the referee's blown his whistle. But anyway, there I digress, and I'm being a little bit facetious. So
No. Look, you've been terrific. Robbie Thomson's joined us on Football Nation Radio's Thursday program. We call it State of Our Football Nation. Suffin is what Pokuah likes to refer to it. It really is our opportunity each and every week to check the pulse of the game in this country, and it's over the last couple of years, it's been most interesting to watch and to listen and to feel. This season for me, Robbie, I've seen some terrific games played. I've seen some outstanding goals scored, and I've seen a few duds, which is not unusual. Pokuah has told me on week after week there are some games that she's watched in the W League that were outstanding, and there are players that she looks forward to seeing next week because they charm her and they also excite her with their style of play. What's been most exciting for you? What's been the highlight package for you, or are you waiting for the highlight package to arrive?
In the whole season,
Let's talk about men's first. Let's talk men's first.
Yeah,
and then we'll talk W League, And then we'll talk Matildas.
It's a tough question,
Okay,
George, because I think I love watching all football all the time, and I don't often sort of step back because of my job, because I'm a neutral observer, if you like. I sort of like to just channel the games as I'm watching them. I plug into them and I sort of try and work as being an interface between the game and the people watching at home,
rather than being a barracker.
Exactly, but for the sport, or even someone that knows I have to write a match report afterwards and know that I have to sort of, analyze a trend. Or I think what I like about the game, what I've seen this year, is probably the fact that sides have gone for wins, that we've seen some incredibly high scoring matches, that we've seen teams not just, and I mean, I know some teams do, and when you play a Melbourne City, for example, a side that's going to dominate you in possession, some teams will just try and sit back and defend. But I admire the professionalism and the discipline of a MacArthur, for example, who are able to, or a Brisbane, that can stay in a game long enough to try and steal something at the end. Because at the end of 90 minutes, you can talk all you want about domination, about ebbs and flows and individual brilliance and all this sort of thing. At the end of the day, it is the result that counts. It's the result that is the most important thing. And we can say, yes, we love to see entertaining football and we love to see this and that. If you're a fan of your team, you want to see them winning. Brisbane, if they can sneak somehow into the finals, if Perth can somehow sneak into the finals, if Newcastle, all these, Western United, after the season they've had, they will deserve to be there. It will be hugely unfortunate for Sydney FC and Wellington if they're to miss out. But all the sides that make it over the course of a season deserve to be there. They will have fought tooth and nail for it. And I just think we should respect that, not judge those that missed out, that haven't been worthy, or, because things have gone against Melbourne victory. And I'm just all for celebrating the positive in the game. So, look, I think we've seen some fantastic young talents come through. We've seen them go all the way to international football. We've seen, an Adelaide side free scoring. We've seen other sides play to their strengths. We've seen a Western Sydney through, rediscover their identity, if you like, and destroy Sydney FC in a couple of derbies. And Sydney FC have won a derby themselves on Western Sydney territory. All these things are fantastic stories. And for a commentator to watch games like this, where that anything can happen. I did MacArthur versus Newcastle last week, where nothing happened for 65 minutes or 80 minutes, and then suddenly we had a first goal and it looked like Newcastle had it. Then 92nd minute, MacArthur equalised like they'd done the week before, and looked like they were going to do it again against Western Sydney. The week before, Western Sydney equalised even later, and here Newcastle went and scored a fantastic goal through Brandon O'Neill to win it. So, and you can't have the last 6 minutes of breathtaking, edge of the seat thriller finale to a game if you didn't have the 85 minutes of chess and tactical play grit out and people getting tired and grit and all of that. So for me, it's hard to pick out single things. I love looking at the emotions procured over 90 minutes. And more often than not, those emotions have been strong and very satisfying one way or the other.
Agreed.
You touched on a little bit about Adelaide and obviously how much of a thrill they've been to the competition this year. What did you think about, obviously, Adelaide, that massive crowd that they got, and they're able to engage with their fans and they're getting more fans back to their ground? What have you thought about that?
Brilliant. But I'll ask, why are the fans coming back? Success. Success. Yeah. They've got players who are in the national team. They've got some fantastic young talent who they're given that chance. I mean, obviously, Iran Kunda, Craig Goodwin, Joe Gauchi,
freakishly
all with
good.
The national team. Brilliant. Good. And they've got kids that have gone out that are playing in the under 23s, with the young Socceroos, that have all been given their chance. And they're a one-team town. I'm not saying that, maybe they should have a second team. Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, all these places that would love to have second teams as well. But, they're a side that are having success, that are representing their city, their state in a national sporting competition, the oldest national sporting competition. We once again highlight that the NSL was before the AFL and the NRL and all these national competitions, that they are representing them, and that the fans, because we know the fans love football, and if you can get the fans to see young kids from Adelaide playing football, if Newcastle can get young kids from Newcastle playing in Newcastle, like the Central Coast do, if Brisbane can do that, this is what teams want. They want to see quality football. They want to see a successful team, and they want to see people that represent them doing what they do. Adelaide are ticking all those boxes.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Carl Viet doing a tremendous job and reminding us yet again of his DNA. He was a real competitor. He used to love scoring goals, and he's got a team of youngsters there that he's given them the opportunity. He's given them that shirt. He said to them, show me your talent. He's allowed them to express themselves. I think that's important. Yep. And we're seeing Nick Montgomery doing a similar sort of thing with the Central Coast Mariners. And Pokuah and I have spoken to Nick on a number of occasions, and you can hear the fire, you can hear the passion. You understand that he loves to not only entertain, but he also understands how important it is to create a culture that resonates with everybody in that stadium. And the goods have been coming back. That game against Melbourne City, that was full of energy, full of good play. And it exploded when the goals came. And they were great goals. Young Jordan Boss, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that impressed you?
Bit of quality.
Is he going to Manchester City, or is he going to Troyes?
Good question.
Whoa.
Well, Troyes will be in the second division probably.
Will Patrick still be coach?
I think so, just because I don't think they would have. I hope so, because they were. Otherwise, I don't see why they would have changed coach.
Correct.
Bruno Elis was sitting 14th in the league when he was replaced by Patrick Kisnorbo. They're now 18th and in all sorts of trouble. I think it's 7 points in 14 games or 17 games now. They lost again. I mean, and again, they lost to Marseille, who are one of the best teams in the competition, for Patrick. So it is difficult, but he's standing up to it. He fronted up to French TV after the game and did an interview in English on the main channel, on the main broadcast. It was the big Sunday night game. So he's there, and he's defending what he's doing, and he hasn't given up as well. Mathematically, it's still possible for Troyes, so hopefully it will. But on the question of Geordie Boss, look, he's a fantastic player. He's physically he's excellent. Technically, he's excellent. I just don't like all these comparisons, and we just seem to be, and I know, George, and Pokuah, you both hear where I'm coming from, because you're level-headed people, which is not always the case with football fans anywhere around the world.
What is it that you dread?
But you can't. I dread that we say this kid is going to be,
the next
Marcelo or Roberto Carlos. He's so physical. He's going to go. He could play in any team in the world now. He's a teenager. He's a kid. He's played 15 minutes for the Australian national team. Yeah. There are kids that are already playing, that are younger, that are playing for the Brazil national team, that are playing for England, that are playing for Italy, Spain.
And for Spain. Look,
he's not going to be, it doesn't have to be one of the best players in the world to be a great footballer, to have a fantastic career, and to make all of us proud as Australians to follow his journey. We don't have to say you're going to go and play for Real Madrid. You could play anywhere in the world. You are that good. Just go to the next level, take the next step up, enjoy your game, keep progressing, don't get injured, keep loving the game. I mean, with all the talk about Garang, who, had signed overseas and fantastic and go, is now seeing how hard it is for him in Scotland, which is not, a massive step up from A-League, but it's different. You go overseas, you're confronted with a completely different mentality. You're confronted by
You're an
people
outsider.
who you're an outsider, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. No. It's not easy to do. So let's not say you're going to go over there and you're going to kill it in the Premier League because you killed it in the A-League. It's irrelevant to say things like that. It's irrelevant to say you're the next Gareth Bale, you're the next, Steven Gerrard to Aidan O'Neill, you're the next, Marco van Basten to whoever. You don't need to say it. It serves absolutely no purpose. You're going to go there, go to Troyes, because the French second division will be a massive learning curve for Aidan O'Neill if that's where he's going.
Yeah.
Having played a little bit in the Premier League, having come back. And it's not just how good is Geordie Boss and how good can he be. Geordie Boss plays, against other players in the A-League where you see how good he is. That's different to playing against Mo Salah or Erling Haaland or... or Robert Lewandowski. Yeah. It's not the same level. No. So don't say you're going to go there. Plus there's the mentality and everything else. So fantastic players, really fantastic players. And the people underestimate how good the A-League players are as well. More than anything, I think it's mentality, but then don't put pressure on them. Let them go. Let them go and play their careers to the best they can. I mean, Patrick Yazbek and Nick D'Agostino, Yazbek scored his first goal for Viking the other day. Dagger's put on 2 assists.
Yep.
They're not playing in the Premier League. They're doing their thing. They're doing learning. It brilliantly. Hopefully, they're learning. Yep. They're in a foreign culture. They're learning a foreign language. They're learning foreign foods.
You mean unlike Gareth Bale?
They're growing as humans.
You mean unlike Gareth Bale, who spent all that time in Spain and did not learn a word? Now, I find that, and I'm a Bale fan. I'm a Spurs boy, and I can take you back to the early days, his first 20 or 30 games for Spurs, and every time he turned up for Spurs, they lost. He did not play in a winning game, I think, for Spurs for about 24 matches. Think about that. That would be exactly. That would normally.
But
crush
we managed to
anybody.
Rewrite history now, don't we?
Oh
exactly.
Now he's a superstar. Yeah.
And he when he first, at Spurs, he was immense. And at Real Madrid, those first seasons, the goals he scored, winning Champions League. My God, if anyone earned a little bit the right to just go and play golf, and we forget that as well, that's what he wanted to do as well. And we think we own these players when they go over there, and that we can tell Gareth what he has to do.
You mean we don't?
You have to learn Spanish. You have to just play football.
You mean we don't?
You can't. Well, we do and we don't. Yeah. That's the beauty of football as well. We all know we sort of like we do. We think we do, which is why the sport's the biggest in the world. But it's very hard for the footballers. I worked at PSG, and I hear what you're saying about Gareth and not learning Spanish. I would say, between you and me, he probably did learn pretty enough Spanish to get by, but just never didn't want to speak it publicly, didn't want to do anything in front of people because it was embarrassing for him.
Yeah, well,
I said that with Di Maria in French. Di Maria in the end would speak very good French, but by the time he left PSG last year for Juve, but he would never ever speak French in public because he's a timid, shy guy, and doesn't want to do any of that. And everyone was like, Neymar doesn't speak French.
No.
He's been there 5 years at PSG. Di Maria doesn't speak French. Zlatan never spoke French. They all learnt French.
Of course
they all spoke French, but they don't want to speak it because they're also in control of their image. They're in control of all sorts of things. These are intelligent people with worth a lot of money.
And they
don't want to look like an idiot and get turned into a joke on Twitter because of the way he tried to speak French. It sounded like his accent. A 4-year-old kid.
Yeah. You watch I'm a huge Yankees fan, and when Ichiro Suzuki, the great Japanese superstar, came to Yankee Stadium, came to the Bronx to play, he spoke very good English, but again they had the interpreters. And we hardly ever heard an English word out of his mouth until the very, very end when he was about to retire, and there were a number of acknowledgements made, and someone asked a rather sophisticated question, and he jumped the gun and responded, and you thought, he knows his English. And you're absolutely right.
Exactly.
They don't want to embarrass themselves because they care about who they are.
Absolutely.
But, it's a wonderful thing. We've got in Pokuah a young woman who came to Australia, age how many?
I was turning 5, not too long.
Turning 5. How long did it take you to learn the language?
To be fair, I was...
You had cheated and you'd learned.
No. The official language in Ghana is technically English. So, I was...
You were almost there.
Almost there. So it wasn't too bad. Robbie, I want to ask you, heading into the finals for the A-League men's, do you have a top 6 lock? Have you made your predictions yet? Or
he's not a fan. He's a commentator.
I know this. I know this about Robbie, but is there anyone where we should keep an eye out where you think they are probably in the hot seat?
Pokuah knows me well enough to know that she's doing this on purpose.
Yes, I know. She's
uncomfortable
egging you on.
In a difficult situation.
Are there any late bloomers? Any latecomers that could squeeze their way in?
Yes, there are. Anything could happen.
The eternal optimist.
What we're seeing, what we're seeing now is that you would want to be Wellington and Sydney heading into these last 2 games, just because it's theirs to lose. I mean, we've been saying that it's theirs to lose and they could lose it, but they're still there. They're still there now with 2 games left. You've got to do the maths and see who's playing who. They don't play anyone who's chasing them, I don't think, do they? I've written all this down 1,000,000 times and had a look at it all. Sydney only have people below them, which is good. So they're in complete control of their own destiny. I mean, Wellington, let me have a look. I've got it here.
Wellington are versing Western Sydney this weekend.
That won't be easy.
And then we got Western United taking on City. Perth have got Adelaide. And
so that's Perth. That's very tough, but that's Perth at home.
Yeah.
But Perth are 4 points behind the top 6 positions. Yeah. So they need really 2 wins and hoping. I mean, if they get 2, to show you how hard it is, they get 2 wins, that's 6 more points for Perth. If Sydney draw 2, they will also be on equal points, and they've got a better goal difference.
Wow!
So that's how hard it is for Perth, and even for Western United and Newcastle, who are really the only 3 I think that can do something now. Macarthur, it's still a little bit possible. Brisbane, it's just ever so slightly possible, but those sides down the bottom have to win 2. And the ones at the top have to lose everything. And it's just getting too hard now. There's just not enough time. There's not enough time left. I think it'll be, the 6 will probably be as it is. Maybe one of Western United or Newcastle. Maybe. That's the only hope. I think the rest is gone. And bring it on. If that's the 6, it's an excellent 6. Wellington have shown this season they can play great football. If Sydney can click with the players they have, they can play great football. And the top 4 have been there all season, so they've already earned their stripes.
A couple of weeks ago, Pokuah and I spoke to Ufuk Talay about his time at the Phoenix, and we've heard now that Giancarlo Italiano, who was one of his assistant coaches, who's raised and earned his stripes coaching Blacktown City to a national NPL title, will be the new person who takes the reins at Phoenix. That's been a really, really tough run for Ufuk, and I think he's done a tremendous job, especially when you consider the price they had to pay through COVID. Was there any tougher a mission for any other club in the A-League than Wellington and what they had to endure?
No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, it's a testament to the coaching staff, but also the entire club, the players themselves. For everyone to have to live 2 years away. For the people that organised it, 2 years away from home, is massive. For a lot of young men will have done a lot of growing up, and it's not only when we all headed off to uni at 18, when we all
you cut
flew
the umbilical cord
and left home. Yeah, but we did it all with our mates, and we could always, change group house if we wanted to, or leave and go off and do something. During those 2 years, they couldn't. They were stuck in a group of young blokes all competing, against other teams, but also against themselves to play. I mean, these are volatile environments where it takes a lot of management. So to come back to Ufuk, spectacular job.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew he was intelligent. I remember seeing him play for the young Socceroos when he was a kid in Canberra before he headed off on his European odyssey as well, and just thought he already looked like a great player as a teenager, someone that understood the game, was clever. I spoke to him pre-season, and he's very level-headed.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing his next step as well. But yeah, he's done an amazing job there with Wellington. The fact maybe that he didn't get the national team job, I think that burnt him a little bit. And the way it was handled by the New Zealand FA.
Yep.
So maybe he just thought that as a sign as well. My only fear is that after, what is it now, and maybe Pokuah can help me, I'll try and look at quickly the stats, but Wellington's last results, because they're on a bit of a slide. I mean, I know so many teams are now, but they're dropping into dangerous territory. And I wonder if they didn't announce the decision of the coaching change to try and just spark a little revival before the finals.
They've only won one of their last 5. They drew the other one, and then they lost the last 3. They won the last, and then 3 lost.
But if you watch that game that Wellington played against Melbourne City, right? There were 3 distinct chances. I think you called the game. There were 3 distinct chances where either Glover has made a breathtaking save, or they've hit the crossbar, or there was an offside. Any of those things become converted, any of those balls go into the back of the net, and that could easily have been a different game. And this is what sometimes we don't, at the end of a game, reflect and give it a fair, not a fair assessment. We try and do that, and especially you guys do. But sometimes as fans, we're too tough. And, of course, it's because we're looking through one set of lenses.
And that's your right. And that's your right, and you should be for as well. Exactly. But, yeah, that game, when Ugarkovic equalised, you thought game on now. Ooh. Because Wellington are playing well. And then it was that 5 minutes after a goal. I mean, we say it, you see it so often, but it just it didn't happen for them. But then, against Brisbane, last time out, was it 2-2? I mean, when I've seen a coach announce in the past that he's leaving or she's leaving before the end of the season, it has never ended well from my memory, and the coaching and the people that I've been involved with and have witnessed closely. It just doesn't seem to work when everyone knows. And take the most recent example is Ante Milicic last year with MacArthur, who also had a great team, and they had Craig Noon, Davila, who was fit and firing, and it just didn't happen because everyone knew the coach was leaving. Yeah. Everyone knew Ante Milicic wasn't going to be there, and it does have a negative effect. So whether Wellington can try and turn it around, and fair play to Ufuk Talay, they've decided to do this, to make this decision. He's going off to wherever he's going. Giancarlo Italiano will be measured on what happens next year, not now.
Yeah,
but I think
true.
This is a big month for what happens for Wellington.
All right, let's move it along to the W League. You've had some fun watching the Matildas, and hasn't it been exciting to watch this young crop present themselves, half a dozen players, and Kira Cooney-Cross, who just continues to emerge, and she's building a level of confidence and ease on the ball that's pretty impressive.
I think I remember when I got back to Australia, and she just won the grand final with the Olympico the season before, in that 120th minute, and that was one of the last games on Fox, and then we'd come in, and so I'd seen a bunch of W League games to try and get up to speed and see what how the game was played and all this sort of thing, and I remember seeing her and just thinking, here we have a player who runs with the ball so fluidly, so powerfully, and I thought, and last season she at Melbourne Victory, while she was there, she didn't have the greatest season, and I think people were starting to wonder, should she be in the national team? What's her position? Should she be further up? Should she be a number 10? Should she be a number 6? All this sort of thing. And to be fair, Gustafsson has hit the nail on the head there. Whether it was Tony or the people at Hammarby, where she's been playing, with her club side. But the idea to pair her with Katrina Gorry, who by all accounts is okay after coming off with what looked like a bad shoulder. I think I've seen reports out of Sweden saying that hopefully, nothing's broken. It doesn't look like there's any bad damage. So hopefully Katrina will be okay. Those two have been spectacular, complementary, and Cooney Cross could be one of the revelations of the World Cup. Not to say she's going to be the next Marta or whatever, but,
no.
If she can catch the eye and play the way she's been playing in the last 6-9 months with the Matildas and for Hammarby, then we have a real player on our hands here, and someone that can go, can be a real player.
Yeah, I think she's really found her form in the recent Matildas games that we've seen her play, and she looks a lot more confident when she is on the ball, which is always exciting to see. In terms of the dub at the moment, Robbie, obviously we've got the prelim final on Saturday and then the grand final the week after. Obviously Western United with the upset against Sydney FC, beating them. Looking ahead to that, how are your thoughts about the dub season that has been and the finals?
Well, it's been a fantastic season again with the Western United story. I mean, Pokuah, you should be giving us your wrap up of the dub season.
Oh, she's been on my case saying, "Hey, they're a great story." She's told me
Western United are an incredible story.
She's been telling me from the beginning of the season, watch these guys because they look like they're about to do something, and sure enough, here we are.
Yeah, no, they've done brilliantly. They've got some fantastic individuals. They've got stories of girls that have played in the NPL, that have waited for this opportunity, that have been given this opportunity. We're seeing also another fantastic advertisement for expansion of the leagues or a national second tier, or however we can get more professional clubs, because people sort of say, but is that going to spread our talent too thin? No, because your talent is going to rise to this occasion and grasp this occasion with both hands. We hope for the women that we'll see it next year with the Central Coast Mariners. Then moving forward we know that the A-League, both men and women, are looking to expand. I mean, it's going to be a brilliant time. But look, Western United's story has been spectacular, but so was Sydney FC's. To come back and win the premiership again, to be that strong, that consistent. Ante Juric has signed another 2-year deal. The coach there, the likes of Perth only just missing out on the finals, of Canberra United who lost a couple of games 5-0 and then turned their season around and beat all the top teams in a run that saw them almost make the finals as well. I mean, the first semi-final was unbelievable. 3-3 penalty shootout. It had everything. It had a team going ahead, then one leading 3-1 with 15 seconds left to play, and then into extra time. I mean, one thing and I was chatting to Teo Pellizzeri afterwards, just exchanging great call, a couple of messages and everything, and just saying you knew it could always change. You knew it could always happen, that match, that anything could still happen. And that's the beauty of the women's league at the moment, is that no side gives up and every side keeps going. And even if you think you're down and out, you never are in the women's game. And so from a competitive point of view, it's spectacular. I went out to Sydney FC training this morning and had a chat to Sarah Hunter, who was there, and she fronted up to the media. They are very, very determined, very, very determined to get one over Melbourne Victory this weekend. I'm sure Melbourne Victory are thinking exactly the same thing. Last time they met, it was 6-3 to Sydney. They've got Melbourne Victory have the 2 grand finals they can point to. They also have that incredible match last weekend. So look, that's going to be all eyes watching that one. And then to play Western United in the grand final, which will also be a fantastic matchup. And whoever it is, that's going to be a spectacular game of football. And hopefully, the people will show up and the broadcast will be of the highest order, which will be on Network 10 on free-to-air, I'm pleased to say. So we will be getting as many eyeballs hopefully on that game as possible, and hopefully it will live up to the season that's preceded it.
It's going to be fascinating to see, obviously, how particularly Sydney and Melbourne Victory match up. Obviously, the Melbourne Victory got Amy Jackson out this weekend. It's going to be interesting to see how their midfield is composed and who is going to have to step up. Because obviously, Sydney FC probably walk into it as the favourites. They've been in better form this year and they've got that massive win over them in the season. Has there been any players that have impressed you, Robbie, this season that you've seen, either in the men's competition or the women's competition? You can't say you're on Kunda.
You've already grabbed Iran Kunda.
No.
Look, we were coming up with our teams of the years earlier for the men's competition. Oh. Well, we were joking around with it and thinking who would you can only pick one player from each team and putting all sorts of rules on it. I went with an under 23 team. Well, actually 22 or under, which I think is a pretty nice looking team. For the women's game, who has stood out? I mean, I think Hannah Keane this season has been a revelation for me. I hadn't seen her play before, and she was just spectacular, particularly in the first part of the season, but she's come back again strong. And taking that goal the way she did on the weekend to fire the side into the grand final was spectacular. But look, some of the old players, the experienced players, Michelle Heyman was spectacular. I'll ask Pokuah, because I know she's been commentating a lot of it this year. What were the best names to call for the best goal calls? Because surely someone like Milivojevic at Canberra when she scored was a great name to roll off the tongue.
Yeah, no,
because the commentator always chooses like little moments as well, and that she scored some fantastic goals. I think
Vesna Milivojevic is probably going to be one of those players that when you talk about this season maybe like gets forgotten, like because Canberra didn't make the finals, but Vesna Milivojevic has definitely had an extremely underrated season because she was phenomenal for Canberra and she almost got them back. Almost got them into finals in that game against Melbourne City. That was pretty good. There's been some good ones.
Well, your City player, Hannah Wilkinson, you've been impressed. Young Galich.
Yeah, Galich she was good, and then she got injured for a little bit. I'll say my favourite goal I called this year, though, was Caitlin Carriage's first goal for Melbourne City against Newcastle, though, where she chips the keeper when she comes on.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Highlight.
It's NPL Victoria player. You got to support those guys. But no, the dub this year has been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of great goals. I'm fascinated actually to see what the fans vote as goal of the season for the awards, like the entire wrap up of the goals there, because there's been some really, really good ones.
Robbie, have you enjoyed the maturation of Marco Tilio?
Yes, and to tell you the truth, George, I've been a little bit, would I say surprised? I think he's turning into, because you can have players that are sort of burst onto the scene and then go into a little more difficult, and like you say, maturity can have maturity issues as soon as they burst onto the scene.
Yep.
It's what I like
pressure.
about him.
It's all about pressure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, dealing the pressure, dealing with the change of club, dealing with raised expectations that you put on yourself as well, thinking that you've got to make the difference every time you step out onto the pitch. It's all, for footballers, so much of it is about decision making in the right moment at the right time. And yeah, I think you've put it best, because he has matured in such a way. Like, he wasn't picked in the World Cup squad originally.
No.
And then got the call up when Martin Boyle missed out. And so I think that also helped. He was part of that. And I see an even more mature Marco Tilio since the World Cup even. But his because I remember his first few matches he wasn't playing this season. He was on the bench. It was Andrew Naboo who was first choice.
Yep.
And with Leckie and McLaren. And what could you do? McLaren was scoring every single game at the start of the season literally.
Hey, he may well be the player of the year, even with the injuries. You know, I think he's he's picked up so many points.
Yeah, but there's him, and Leckie is the other one who's going to win Player of the Year. Good one. So you've got two of them in your team. Andrew Naboo is a vastly experienced professional. You've also got new players like Valon Berisha, who are in there. Berenguer was injured, but
he's been a cheeky player.
I like him. I like him a lot.
Hey, look, Berisha was a name I used to make me tremble because I remember him at Raw when he was ferocious under Ange. I remember him as a real city killer or a Melbourne heart killer. And you don't want to go, to a game and know that there's a killer out there, stalking your defences. You want to go and think you've got a chance. But every time Berisha was there, you'd go, oh, here we go again. And of course, the ball would fall to him, wouldn't it? And he would show that poise under pressure and just score. And you'd go, here we go. Yeah, no, it's been.
Jamie McLaren has many of those clubs as well.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That he's done that too,
and he has a lot of critics. And he has a lot of critics, doesn't he?
Now he does, and that's unfounded as well. Because I get that. People have to change their perceptions, and because not everyone is going to be like Ronaldo, you're also going to need your Raúls. Or someone, and I was saying Brazilian Ronaldo, obviously, because I'm of that era. But there's nothing wrong with a goal poacher, an incredibly intelligent player that puts the ball in the back of the net. And for a fifth season of 20 goals or more, you can't challenge that consistency in front of goal, and he's going to break the record. Hopefully for him, it happens, before the finals focus, so that can be another liberating weight off his shoulders. Like got that record sorted before the finals, and then he can just enjoy the finals because, they lost the grand final last time. The time before that, wasn't it? He away with the Socceroos. Correct. Or sitting in a hotel room. Yep. So
Watching.
That must just be gutting for a player of that caliber as well, who just wants to get back. And so, I feel that he's going to want that desperately. And so he should. So, so many good things. But Marco Tilio, fantastic season as well. And you're right. I think he's a much more dangerous player now because because of his maturity, his decision-making is better. And I think that makes him a lot harder to defend against. And he's scoring goals consistently. He's assisting consistently. He's getting back and doing the defensive side of his job, which you have to do, and which he, Patrick Kisnorbo drilled into him. And probably it was under Patrick Kisnorbo that he got that hard love.
Yeah.
He had to learn, if I want to play, I have to defend. I have to be a complete player.
I have to be a two-way player, correct. That goal that he took the other day where he scored 2 goals, the one where he just placed it with nearly no backlift. It's that futsal, in his history that mesmerises keepers. Keepers always want you to take a little bit of time to kick the ball. And when you take no time to kick the ball with next to no backlift, it's as a former keeper, let me just tell you, I hate it. It's unfair that you can place it.
Romario. That was if anyone wants to know what George is talking about, get on into Romario in YouTube and see a player that just scored incredibly, nonchalant goals, but by always kicking them before the goalkeeper was ready.
Yeah, but you always have to get to that spot. Everyone says to me, oh, you got so many easy goals. No. The whole magic, the marvel is that he found himself there time after time after time, which tells you what, Robbie, that they are marvellous readers of the game.
Yep, exactly. Pippo Inzaghi.
Can I just say, I want to give you enormous credit. You've been fantastic throughout the year. We really appreciate very much your contribution today. You've given us more than ample. Wish you all the very best for the finals. Safe travels to France when you pick up the kids, and we look forward to hearing more from you when you're back and prepare not only the kids but yourself for what promises to be a most memorable Women's World Cup, and it will be the biggest women's event in world sport. Yes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robbie.
Can't wait. Thank you, George. Thank you, Pokuah. Have a great weekend of A-League football.
Absolutely. Robbie Thomson from Channel 10 and Paramount Plus, part of the commentary team. He's there with Simon Hill. They've been doing some tremendous work, as has Teo Palizzeri.
Yep.
And yourself, Madame, doing the occasional game here
Just
and
the
there.
occasional game. Curtis, thanks to Robbie as well. Robbie gave me a lot of advice and tips throughout the season.
What was the one thing he told you that you can sort of reveal and let us pass it on to any future commentators?
That we are behind the wall, so we just help guide the narrative of the game.
Okay, so you're on this side of the wall.
We're on this side of the wall.
And you just...
The TV screen is there. We're just
You're the honest broker.
We're just here to guide you through the game.
Gotcha.
That's it. That's great advice. He gave me a great book as well. Gave me a PDF of a book, and it's very helpful as well.
Well, we've enjoyed our Sufin, our State of Football Nation episode with our special guest, Robbie Thomson, Pokuah Frimpong and George Danikian. Until next week. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.